Okay, I want to say thank you to Randy and the Veterans Commission here for putting this together. They're volunteers. They do a lot of time in City Hall and Health and Human Services. So if you could just join me in recognizing them and saying thank you. Since our administration took office in 2013, veteran initiatives have been an important part of our objectives. Partially because of my personal service in the Marine Corps, but partially because I think it's a responsibility as an American to take care of those who served. And we've been at the forefront of a lot of different initiatives. We built housing for homeless veterans with some of the partners in this room. We reinstituted a Veterans Day parade. There was no shortage of parades in Jersey City, but we thought that this was a priority to start again 3 years ago. And most recently, last year, we partnered with some of the individuals in this room to fully renovate and raise $60,000 to fully renovate our VFW post here in Jersey City. And none of those would be possible without some of the partners in this room, men and women who served. And so we're thankful for that. And our commitment to you is that Jersey City will continue to be a leader on veteran initiatives.
Although we wish it weren't so, sometimes it takes war to achieve peace. War has been necessary time and time again to defend the vast, nearly unfettered liberties we enjoy here in the world's greatest democracy, and to protect the liberties of our sisters and brothers throughout the world who couldn't protect themselves, or to provide humanitarian aid to save those fellow global citizens. But for the veterans of the American Revolution, we wouldn't even be here. There would be no America. But for the veterans of the Civil War, imagine the continued plight of our sisters and brothers of color in this room here today. But for the veterans of World War II, we might not even have a mayor, because as the descendant of Holocaust survivors, the people of an entire faith may have been eradicated from this earth by forces of unfathomable evil. Everybody in this room is aware of, everybody in this room celebrated the end of Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi's reign of terror when U.S. Special Forces killed him a week and a half ago. But a day later, some of you might have missed the news about Abu al-Hassan al-Muhajir, because our troops got that SOB in Aleppo, and he was like number 2 to al-Baghdadi and was a spokesman for ISIS and was the front runner to replace al-Baghdadi as the head of ISIS. Very significant. And many civilians to this day may never have heard of, don't know who al-Muhajir even is. And that doesn't make you uninformed, that doesn't make you not well read. We all have a lot going on. It's impossible to keep up with every national security event of significance. But you and I don't have to know who al-Muhajir is, or even any of his potential replacements. Those in uniform, those in our national security apparatus, have got that handled for us. They have that covered every day. They will continue to fight those fights on our behalf. So we don't have to be aware of what they're doing every day. And they'll miss the holidays coming up that we civilians get to enjoy with our families while they're deployed to a faraway land, occasionally being allowed to FaceTime with their kids when satellite internet is working. And when many of the people in this room served, you didn't have satellite phones, there was no internet or FaceTime, and if you were lucky and you had time, you maybe got out a letter in between dodging aerial assaults and sniper fire and putting together the little heaters and the MREs and making the little MRE bombs with the hot sauce packets. Meatloaf was my favorite. I digress. So Election Day just passed, and I hope everyone in this room took advantage of their opportunity to exercise their right to participate in the political process, however you voted, because it is such a fundamental right we have and we enjoy as Americans. Because throughout the world, in certain despotic nation states, they don't enjoy that right. And I'll tell you a little story. This is 2019. 2009, 10 years ago, in August, my friend, a fellow sergeant who served in the 4th CAG Reserve Unit in the Marine Corps that I served in, Bill Kayer, who was also a former reporter, congressional candidate. Sergeant Kayer was in the Helmand province in Afghanistan, deployed with the CAG. And he was cutting Taliban trade supply lines and disrupting their routes to protect the Afghan people's newfound right to vote. His wife was pregnant with twin daughters he would never meet. He was killed with a single gunshot wound to the throat in August 2009, over a decade ago. And that's the kind of sacrifice that our veterans have made throughout the history of our democracy to protect the freedoms we enjoy. So this day is to express our gratitude for the sacrifice of every American who wore a uniform and carried an M16 to defend our flag and freedom. This day is for you. And many of those veterans have gone on to continue to serve the public out of uniform, including our mayor, Steve Fulop, a Marine who deployed the first wave in Iraq, Councilman Rich Boggiano, another former Marine, Councilman Danny Rivera, another former Marine. I think with 4 Marines on this stage, it's rare that we outnumber the other branches, but I know that there are several in the audience, and Semper Fi and happy birthday. As President Kennedy said, as we express our gratitude, we must never forget that the highest appreciation is not to utter words, but to live by them. So how do we live by our words of gratitude? How do we show it to our veterans? We can start by treating our veterans right and saying thank you. Those of you who served in Vietnam came home at a time when not everyone remembered to thank you. And I hope the America of today is making up for that inexcusable slight. We can start by treating our veterans right, literally treating in terms of health care, medically, making sure they get the care they deserve, which under today's VA health system is not happening. And not all wounds of war are visible. Post-traumatic stress and other mental health issues continue to plague service members as they transition to civilian life, and helping our vets deal with substance abuse, addiction issues without stigmatizing it must be part of the solution. I'm very proud that in Jersey City, we're also doing something by getting veterans off the street. HUD estimates 58,000 homeless veterans throughout the United States on any given night are out there without a roof over their heads. Here in Hudson County and in New Jersey, we're trying to make sure that that isn't so, because that's an absolute travesty. Just think, this weekend and this Monday when we celebrate Veterans Day, nearly 60,000 people who served in uniform in this first world democracy throughout the country are out on the street. But what we did here in the city at 65 Ocean, and by creating veterans housing, by creating new units, legislation I've been proud to sponsor that's now been signed into law, like the Veterans Affordable Housing Section 8 Voucher Pilot Program, creating a preference affordable housing for veteran. What they did, the American Legion Post in Hoboken, Post 107, by creating units dedicated to veterans, just like Mayor Fulop and the labor building trades did here in Jersey City. These are steps we're taking to pay it forward. And everybody in this room, veteran or not, we can pay it forward. And this will be my concluding note, we can pay it forward by serving our community in all different ways. Volunteers are not paid, not because they're worthless, but because they're priceless. And you can apply to the folks sitting to my left to serve on the library board, on the planning board. You can run for office yourself. You can just show up to Liberty State Park on a day we're doing a cleanup. You can help out your neighborhood association, participate in your condo association's governance. There are so many things you can do to pay it forward and to pay tribute to the veterans who risked their lives to protect the freedoms we enjoy. I'm not sure, having never deployed to combat, I'm not sure I deserve to be the Grand Marshal at this year's parade, but I am humbled and thank the committee on behalf of all who did see combat, from Yorktown to Gettysburg, from Normandy to Iwo Jima, from Incheon to the Chosin Reservoir, from Khe Sanh to Saigon, from Fallujah to Kabul to Kandahar. Our heroes and sheroes in uniform and their families have sacrificed and risked life and limb to protect all of us here at home and our liberties. And as the Korean War Memorial reads in DC, generation after generation of patriotic Americans did this, not just for us back home, but to defend countries, quote, they never knew, and a people who they've never met, end quote. This day is for them, This day is for you. We have the comfort of sitting here and enjoying those liberties because somebody in uniform out there is not going to be home for Thanksgiving with their wife or husband or newborn. Somebody in uniform out there is going to miss their Hanukkah and Christmas. And this Veterans Day, keep them in mind and thank them. And to the veterans here today, thank you. Semper Fidelis.
Hi everybody, how you doing today? Thank you for having me here. Randy and Julia, thank you for making this happen. I'm not going to talk much about myself. You guys know my name already. I want to share a story of one of those veteran heroes, those that were in war. I have the privilege to have a father who's in the American history books. He goes under the name Martin Reyes Linares. He was under a war during the Cuban times, the Bay of Pigs in 1961, a CIA-sanctioned mission. Over 1,500 soldiers went down into Cuba. 1,200 made it back. My father was one of them. But the story is not just that. When they landed in Cuba, he was captured. But after fighting through the jungle, fighting through the swamps, with a machete, getting into a village and being there for about 2 days until somebody ratted him out. He tells me the story that's when he kind of found his passion for cooking, and that's what I do for a living. He made pollo a la reina for them, which is, it translates to the Queen's chicken, which is not a great sounding dish in English, but in Spanish sounds amazing. He made this for them, and they were very happy because they were getting fed after he negotiated himself to stay there. See, my father's 5'3" tall, very, very pale skin, green eyes. He does not look Cuban at all. So the people were afraid, but he told them, nah, I'm here. I'm here to help you out. But somebody ratted him out. When you get captured during that time, you were in a big line, single file line, and at the other end was Fidel Castro and Raul Castro. That line, when you approach Fidel Castro, he asks you one question: why are you here? My father was standing in line, and all he could think about, what am I going to tell this guy? Because I know if I answer incorrectly, I might die. You see, if he didn't like the answer, to his left, he said, go left, you will get into a truck. They will drive you somewhere, take you out, kill you, put you in the ground. If he took you to your right, he said, go to the right, you will spend your time in jail. So as my father got closer, his anxiety built up. Hands got sweaty. He was like, I gotta tell him the truth. I can't lie to him, you know? I'm a man of honor. He was a Marine as well. And one of the reasons I joined the Marine Corps, became a veteran. So Fidel Castro looked at him and said, ¿Por qué veniste acá? Why are you here? My father looked at him, 5'3" tall, green eyes, blonde hair. He said, I'm here to kill you. Fidel Castro looked around, and he might be exaggerating, my father. I did. He said, mírate chico, que me viene a matar a mí. He's here to kill me. And my father looked at him. He's like, yeah, I came here to kill you. That's my mission. And with all due respect, Fidel Castro looked down at him and he said to him, you know what? I need people like you in my military. I want you to join my military. I'll give you a commander's position. I'll give you the highest position to help me run my military. He's like, no, you didn't hear me. I'm here to kill you. So after a few minutes, right then and there, my father said, I'm done. I am done. So he sent him to the right. Big relief. But there's more to that, right? He spent 3 years in jail, in the Cuban jails, with 1,200 other soldiers. The way he got through there is the funniest part, though. So when he went into jail the first night, they threw a bunch of magazines in the middle of the room, and they said, go pick up a magazine. My father wanted a nice magazine to read, like a really nice magazine, right? He reached in hand, and the only thing he pulled out was a big black book, right? Which is the Bible. He's never seen the Bible. He was not a religious man. He opened that Bible. He read it, not understanding what it was. He read the whole thing without knowing it was a Bible. But then someone else told him what it was. He learned about it. But a passage in there he read, and it was to believe in the unknown, right? Speaking into existence, it will happen. So every day, once he got that message, he went outside in the courtyard. He stood on this water fountain that was not working. He would tell everybody, tomorrow we're gonna get liberated. We're going home for 3 years. Now everybody's like, Martin, stop talking nonsense. And finally, his message came through. That next day, they came into the squadron or whatever, and they said, you're going home. You are free to go home after 3 years. And he said, you see, I was right. He told everybody I was right. And because of that story that we don't get to hear, right? We know a lot of veterans go out there. We have combat veterans here, and I thank you for allowing me to be up here. You know, that story, I've never told it to anybody, just in my inner circle. And, you know, my father now lives in Colombia, 90 years old. He lives by himself in Colombia. It's amazing. But through his bravery, that's why I joined the Marine Corps, because I wanted to give my sons something to look up to and something to look forward to doing. Because I believe every American should serve their country, so we could keep having a free country.
Happy Veterans Day to all the veterans that are here today. Big hoorah from United States Marine Corps from my part, to my fellow Marines out there. But just to let you know, this Veterans Day is for everybody. I love you all. Thank you. Be good.